All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different.
Yeah.
We are diving headfirst into, well, a grammar textbook.
Okay, interesting.
Our source for this deep dive is a collection of English grammar exercises and notes. It feels very much, rooted in a Russian educational context.
Right.
We're going to simplify its rather long title, maybe just call it a Russian English grammar collection.
Good idea. Easier to track.
Our mission today is to really extract the most important nuggets of English grammar, specifically as this source presents them.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see what patterns, what rules, what examples it chooses to emphasize, and what that tells us,
And that's the core insight here, I think. This isn't just some random list of rules. It's clearly a highly structured system for, building grammatical understanding.
Yeah.
The source zeroes in on areas that are, known challenges for learners, and it tackles them through very deliberate exercises and specific notes. It's like seeing the curriculum unfold.
Yeah, exactly. Think of this as getting the curated highlights reel from maybe a classic practical grammar guide.
Yeah, a practical one.
So whether you're trying to firm up your own understanding or maybe just curious about how English is taught through a different cultural lens, well, this deep dive should give you some real insights.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Okay, let's unpack the very first thing this source spends a lot of time on right at the beginning, the article.
Ah, yes. Tiny words, big impact.
A and the, and those times where there's no article at all.
It's absolutely foundational. And the source immediately draws this sharp line between the indefinite a or and, the definite, and of course the zero article.
Right.
It starts simple, countable, singular noun. Needs a or an the first time you mention it.
Yeah.
Then the ninth when it's specific or already known.
And the exercises really drill this, don't they? I mean, examples from exercise 8 or 15. This is a good book. Okay, first mention.
This is a book.
Then take the book from the table. Now, it's that specific book, that specific table. Everyone knows which one.
Exactly. Or like, there is a TV antenna on the roof.
Yeah.
It's one antenna, yes, but it's on the specific roof we're discussing.
That distinction seems key right from the get-go.
And what's particularly telling, I think, about this source's focus is how it handles articles with places in institutions.
Oh, yeah. The exceptions.
It repeatedly shows phrases like at school, to work, at home, in the exercises. No article.
Yes, and it has that special box. I saw that. Us, I'm axing it to which means remember the following set phrases. And it lists them. To go to bed, to go to work, to go to school, to go home, to come home, to leave home.
Right. It's explicitly highlighting these common patterns.
Yeah.
Where you just omit the article.
It's like saying, look, the basic rules are fine, but memorize these ones.
Precisely. It's acknowledging that learners can't just rely on a simple rule here. They need to know these common fixed expressions.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like you said, it immediately contrasts this in other examples.
Yeah, like in exercise 21, there is a new school at the corner of our street.
Okay, so why the articles there?
Well, school gets, because it's modified, right? It's a new school. It's less about the general institution school and more about a specific building.
Makes sense. And the corner?
Well, it's the corner because it's specific, the one relative to our street. And it brings in travel examples later, too. Exercises 30 and 37 using articles with specific destinations.
And this flows right into another major section, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Articles with geographical names. Always a tricky area.
Oh, yeah.
Exercise 37 lays out these really clear patterns. It says rivers, oceans, seas, mountain ranges, and groups of islands.
Yeah.
They almost always take the.
So like the Neva, the Pacific Ocean, the Urals, the British Isles. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if those take what about individual mountains or lakes? Does the source cover that?
It absolutely does. It makes a point of showing the exceptions. Individual mountains like Elbrus, no article. Lakes like Lake Baikal or Lake Onega, again, typically no article.
Interesting. So it's a pattern, but with key exceptions to learn.
Exactly. And same for countries. France, Ukraine, Canada, no article. But then the big exception, the USA.
Right.
This explicit listing of patterns and exceptions seems to be a real hallmark of this source's method. Very systematic.
It also lumps unique things in there, doesn't it? Like the weather, the sky, the sun, the world.
Yeah, things considered one of a kind in context.
In superlatives, the highest peak, the deepest lake, plus that fixed phrase, the same. It feels like it wants learners to just memorize these common ones.
Yes, they're presented as definite concepts, unique or singular, so they take the. Then the source shifts gears slightly, moving to abstract concepts like languages and school subjects. That's exercise 30.
Oh, yeah, like, do you speak Spanish? Or he speaks English and French, but he does not speak German.
No articles there.
And the subjects. English literature, geography, mathematics. Again, the pattern seems to be no article when you're talking about the language or subject itself.
Exactly. And then there are these small but, important phrases that get attention too, like time phrases.
Right. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, all with the. But then, whoops, at night, no the.
Or specific time points at 5:15, using a.
It's quite detailed. And the exclamations, what a good boy. What a strange question.
Yeah, that what a structure is another specific pattern the book highlights through, sheer repetition in the exercises.
So it's showing that a or an fits into these specific exclamatory structures, but only before a singular countable noun.
Correct. And finally, it just briefly touches on articles with titles or ranks, like in exercises 44 and 79.
Differentiating specific unique titles, the 44th president, often taking the, versus maybe a general rank or position, which might take like a corporal, or the office, if it's a specific known office.
Precisely. It covers a lot of ground.
Wow, okay. That is a deep dive just into articles. It really shows how much emphasis this source places on them, common uses, exceptions, fixed phrases, the works.
It lays a strong foundation.
So, moving on, once you sort of grasp specific versus general with articles, the source then helps you talk about quantity. It spends quite a bit of time on some, any, no, and every.
And their compounds, of course.
Yeah, and the approach here is quite systematic again. It gives a clear, almost flowchart-like rule, doesn't it? Some for positive statements.
Right. We already have sentences.
Any for questions and negatives. But, and this is crucial, it also points out some is used for offers and requests.
Ah, that's a good point. That's a specific usage that could definitely trip learners up.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, okay, we haven't got any milk. That's negative.
Yeah.
Are there any pictures? Question. Easy enough. Bob always likes some sugar. Positive statement. But then also, can I have some milk? That's a request.
Or will you have some tea? An offer.
That's a great clarification the source makes. And it also introduces no as this alternative negative, right, use of the positive verb to mean the same as any with a negative verb.
So there are no flowers here equals there aren't any flowers here.
Exactly. And the source actually has exercises making you switch between those structures to really get the hang of it.
And this whole logic then extends to the compound forms somebody, anybody, nobody, everybody, something, anything, etc.
Yes. The exercises really drive these home. You see examples like, nobody liked that play, or everybody was present, same pattern. Some compounds in positive contexts.
Like, I saw somebody.
Right. And any compounds in questions or negatives like, we did not see anybody.
I really liked that example from exercise 116. It felt like a little grammar riddle.
The empty box one.
Yeah. Can you see anything in an empty box? Question using anything.
Then the answer, no, I can't see anything. Negative answer, also anything.
Because there is nothing in an empty box. Statement using nothing. It just perfectly illustrates the whole set.
It's a clever, memorable way to reinforce the concepts, definitely. This whole section shows the source building carefully, from basic quantity words to their related compound forms, always keeping that focus on affirmative versus negative or question contexts.
Okay, deep breath. Verbs. Let's talk verbs. The source dedicates a huge chunk of material here. Verb forms, tenses, showing how when something happens completely changes the sentence structure.
Yeah, this is where that systematic nature really shines through. It just marches through the core English tenses. Present simple, past simple, present perfect.
Past continuous, past perfect.
Future simple, future perfect, and even present perfect continuous. It covers a lot.
And the exercises aren't just about conjugation, like filling in blanks, are they?
No, not entirely. Crucially, they're often about choosing the correct tense based on the context provided. Making you think about the meaning.
And it does this brilliant thing, I think, with comparison exercises. Like, it puts present perfect right next to past simple.
Right, to highlight the difference.
So, she has lived in France. That implies some connection to the present, right? Maybe she still lives there. Or the experience matters now, like she speaks French.
The effect lingers.
But she lived there last year. Boom, finished action, specific past time. Done.
Exactly. Or that weather example they use. The rain has stopped.
Yeah.
You look outside, the result is clear, now it's not raining anymore. Versus the rain stopped half an hour ago, now you have a specific time marker in the past. that demands the past simple. The source forces you to analyze the timing and the implication.
And I notice it really works on present continuous versus present perfect continuous too. That can be tricky.
Definitely.
She is studying Spanish. Okay, she's doing it right now, maybe this semester.
Yeah, ongoing action now.
Versus she has been studying Spanish for 2 years. That emphasizes the duration. It started in the past, continues up to now.
Yes, exactly. Highlighting that for 2 years, phrase signals the need for a continuous tense that bridges past and present. The source is quite good at providing those contextual clues. It also gives the passive voice a significant workout.
Right, lots of exercises on how to form it, the be verb plus the past participle.
And importantly, when to use it.
Which is usually when.
The key application the source seems to emphasize is when the action itself is more important than who did it, or when the doer is unknown, or just irrelevant.
Gotcha.
That example from the control exercise, the one about airport security after 9/11, is quite striking, I thought.
Remind me.
It gives the phrase, many new security procedures to put into practice.
Okay.
And in the passive, it becomes, many new security procedures were put into practice. The focus shifts entirely to the procedures being implemented. We don't know or necessarily care who specifically put them there.
That's a really effective real-world example pulled right into a grammar exercise. The source also seems to dedicate a pretty substantial section to sequence of tenses and indirect speech or reported speech.
Oh, yes. This is another area where English rules can feel quite different, quite complex for learners coming from other language backgrounds.
The whole back-shifting thing.
Exactly. The source meticulously demonstrates how verb tenses often shift backwards when you report what someone said, especially if your reporting verb like said or told or asked is itself in the past tense.
Right. So a direct command like keep quiet becomes what? He told me to keep quiet uses an infinitive there.
Correct. Or a direct question like where is he going changes to he didn't tell anybody where he was going.
So is going becomes was going. It shifts back.
Precisely. Exercise 329 has a good example. Direct speech is where did she buy this hat? Past simple.
Okay.
When reported, it becomes he wanted to know where she had bought that hat. The past simple did buy shifts back to the past perfect had bought because the reporting verb wanted is in the past.
Makes sense. The source gives a lot of practice transforming direct speech into indirect then.
Ample practice. Lots of exercises on that specific transformation.
Okay, so here's where, for me anyway, it gets really interesting, maybe a bit more advanced. The source doesn't just stop at basic sentences and tenses. It seems to build towards these more complex structures, ways to add layers of detail or combine ideas.
You mean things like participles?
Exactly. Participles, the ing form, the present participle, and the ed or on form, the past participle, and how they can act almost like, condensed clauses or adjectives.
That's a good way to put it.
So instead of saying a fish that is taken out of the water cannot live, which is perfectly fine.
A bit wordy, maybe.
Yeah. You can shorten it using the participle.
Yeah.
A fish taken out of the water cannot live. The past participle taken just modifies fish directly, much tighter.
Exactly. Or for simultaneous actions. Instead of say, because she saw clouds of smoke, the girl cried, fire.
Which again works fine.
But you can use the present participle for conciseness. Seeing clouds of smoke, the girl cried, fire. Connects the seeing and the crying directly. Yeah. The source even gets into something called the independent participial clause, which is pretty specific, like she stood silent, her lips pressed together. It shows how to link these related ideas very compactly.
And gerunds, also using the ing form, but this time acting like a noun.
Yes, exercises 403, 414, 416 really focus on this. The key thing the source wants learners to grasp is that the gerund is functioning as the subject or object of a sentence, or it's following a preposition, or it's following certain specific verbs that take a gerund.
Right, and the examples show those common patterns. She has always dreamt of living in a small house. Living follows the preposition of. She enjoys driving an expensive car. Driving follows the verb enjoys.
Or she hates getting up early. Another verb plus gerund pattern.
And then it gets into complex objects and complex subjects. These sound a bit intimidating, honestly.
They can sound that way, but the source breaks them down with examples. Complex objects are basically structures where you have a verb, then an object, a noun or a pronoun, and then usually an infinitive without to or a participle.
Okay, like what?
Think of verbs of perception, see, hear, watch, feel, or verbs of causation or permission, let, make, have. The classic example they use is, I saw him drop his bag.
So verb saw, object him, infinitive drop.
Exactly. You see him and the action you perceived him doing was dropping the bag or using a participle. I watched the sun rising. Verb of watched. Object the sun, present participle rising.
Right. The source gives plenty of practice with those specific types of verbs. I saw that. And it includes that causative have something done structure in this section too, right?
Yes, exercise 446. That's crucial. It's for indicating that you arrange for someone else to perform an action for you.
Like, I must have my hair cut tomorrow. I'm not cutting it myself.
Precisely. Or they had someone else brought the dinner for them. It's a very distinct structure, very common, and the source makes sure to highlight it.
And briefly, complex subjects. That's the structure where, like, a passive verb is followed by an infinitive.
Correct. Exercise 474 covers those. Structures like, he is said to be a good translator.
Instead of, people say that he is a good translator.
Exactly. It's a more formal, often more concise way to express that idea. Or, the number of the unemployed is reported to be increasing. It's a common structure in news reports or formal writing, a way to convey information impersonally.
Okay, that covers those complex building blocks. Phew! Finally, the source takes us through modal verbs.
Right, the helper verbs. The ones that add those extra shades of meaning, like possibility, necessity, advice, ability.
And the source seems to focus on a core group. Must, have to, be to, need, can, could, and should.
That's the main set, yes.
Must seems to have a couple of key uses the source emphasizes. Obligation, obviously. You must work hard.
Strong internal obligation, usually.
And that other meaning, the strong logical assumption. It must be cold outside, or it must have snowed at night. Like, you're almost certain based on evidence.
Yes, and it's important that the source explicitly contrasts must with have to. Have to often indicates necessity imposed by external circumstances or rules, whereas must can be more internal.
Ah, okay.
And it also brings in be to, which is interesting. It's for necessity based on an arrangement or a plan. Bit more formal, perhaps. The source points this out on page 412.
And need. I saw exercises on that. The source shows need not, meaning lack of necessity, right? You need not do it means you don't have to.
Yes, and it clearly differentiates that from cannot, which is about inability. They sound similar, but mean different things.
Good distinction.
And it includes that past perfect structure. You need not have done it, which is specifically for saying something was done, but, well, it turned out to be unnecessary. Hindsight, really.
Right. You went to the trouble, but you didn't need to. That's a common point of confusion the source tackles directly.
Then can and could. Pretty standard stuff, ability, possibility.
Polite requests, like, can you tell me the way?
Yeah. The source even notes that slightly idiomatic use of can't have for strong disbelief. Like the example, but they can't be as bad as he, meaning I strongly believe they are not that bad.
Expressing near certainty that something isn't true. Okay. And finally, should.
Primarily used, as you'd expect, for giving advice or recommendations. You should read aloud. You should smoke less. Pretty straightforward.
And just like need, it includes the should have done structure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
For expressing regret or maybe criticism about something that didn't happen in the past but probably ought to have, you should have listened. That sort of thing.
Okay. Wow. So we've journeyed through this this Russian English grammar source.
Right.
We tackled articles, quantifiers, a whole range of verb tenses, including passive and reported speech.
Built up to complex structures like participles, gerunds, complex objects, complex subjects.
And finally, navigated the nuances of modal verbs. That's quite a comprehensive sweep.
And what's truly fascinating, I think, is seeing the method behind it all. It's not just presenting rules, is it?
No, not at all.
It's the systematic breakdown, the explicit highlighting of exceptions in those set phrases, and the heavy, heavy reliance on structured exercises and comparisons to really solidify understanding.
Yeah.
It really reflects a specific pedagogical approach, one that values these building blocks and recognizing patterns.
Hopefully this deep dive into this particular source has given you listening some genuine aha moments, maybe, or just a clearer picture of these key English grammar points, but seen through a method that's clearly designed to address specific learning challenges.
Yeah.
It really underscores that sometimes going back to the fundamentals, especially when they're presented clearly and with targeted practice like this, can be incredibly powerful. A good reminder.
Absolutely. And maybe the takeaway isn't just the grammar itself, but that emphasis the source places on structured practice, on mastering specific examples to really build understanding, because it's a great model. And maybe it raises an important question for your own learning journey, whatever you're studying. Where could revisiting some fundamental exercises or really focusing intensely on specific patterns like this source does, where could that give you the biggest boost right now?
That's a really powerful thought to sit with. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this deep dive.